So here we have example 4.2 where we have to solve the equation. We need to find the solution. And since this problem reads -5 times x is equal to 60, we want to divide, because that's the opposite operation of multiplication. And we want to divide both sides by -5. The -5's on the left cancel. They divide out, leaving x with a coefficient of 1. And 60 divided by -5 is -12. So our solution is -12. You have to substitute it into the original equation to check. So that'll give us -5 times 12. Times -12. It's supposed to be equal to 60. And in fact, it is. It should be a pretty basic multiplication fact. So our solution does check. And the last example today, -2.4 is equal to 1.2 times x. So we need to divide both sides by x. Or I'm sorry, by 1.2. Doing that division, that gives us -2.4 divided by 1.2, which does give a -2, is equal to x. Now, we need to use a property here, the symmetric property, meaning we can switch sides, saying that x is equal to -2. It's always better to put your variable first in your equation. 2.4 is supposed to be equal to 1.2 times -2. And even though this isn't real hard, 1.2 times -2 is -2.4. And it's real simple. You just do 1.2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 1 is 2. Since this has one decimal place, this needs to have one decimal place. And since one of them is negative, it's -2.4. So our solution does check.
And once again, I want to isolate that x. I want to get it by itself. So since I had the x being divided, the way to undo division would be to multiply. So I'm going to multiply this fraction, x over 3, by 3. If I multiply one side of an equation by a number, I've got to multiply the other side by the same number. So that means I have to multiply the right side of the equation by 3. Doing the multiplication on the left, these 3's are going to cancel, which is what I wanted to happen. That's what I expected. So I'll cross those out. And now I've just got an x. Doing the multiplication on the right side, I've got -5 times 3 is going to give me -15. And I can check this. So my original equation was x over 3 equals -5. If I think my answer is x equals -15, I want to put that -15 where the x is. So -15 divided by 3 equals -5. And -15 divided by 3 does equal -5. So this answer.
And the goal of any linear equation is to isolate the variable on one side of the equation. So we want to manipulate this equation so that it's in the form of x equals some number on the right side. So we need to recognize that -6x means -6 times x. So we want to undo this multiplication in order to isolate the variable. Well, the opposite operation of multiplication is division. So in this example, we'll have to divide both sides by -6. It would be incorrect to add 6 to both sides because this -6 is attached to the variable by multiplication, not by subtraction. So now we have -6 divided by -6, which simplifies to 1, and 1 times x would be x. And on the right side, we have positive 36 divided by -6, which is equal to -6. Now, the first thing we should do is deal with this negative. Instead of leaving it out front, we could include it in the numerator or denominator, but not both. So to solve this equation, I think it'll be helpful to write this as x divided by -3 equals -8. And now we want to manipulate this equation so it's in the form of x equals some number. So looking at the left side, we want to undo this division by -3 by performing the opposite operation to both sides of the equation. Well, the opposite of dividing by negative 3 would be to multiply by negative 3. So we can multiply the left side by negative 3 as long as we do the same to the right side. So multiplying by negative 3 and then dividing by negative 3 would simplify to 1. So we're left with x on the left side. And on the right side, we have negative 3 times negative 8. Well, a negative times a negative would be positive, so x equals positive 24. So x equals 24 is our solution.